3 minutes for opening remarks. I'm going to start on my right and move to my left. Then we are going to have a round of questioning from the audience. I'll open it up from the audience. 2-minute answers. If you've got some questions, we'll take those first. If not, I've got some pre-prepared questions here. So think about what you might want to ask. And then we will have 3-minute closing remarks from each candidate. And each candidate has their tables here in the back for their information. I'm sure they'll be glad to stay around afterwards. And this is a Republican primary event. We are not here to hear anybody talk about how bad the other guy is. We want to hear how good you are. In that regard, we are also not allowing any filming other than the accredited news agencies, owned by candidates. So the only filming is going to be by the news agencies that are here. So,
Snapshots okay?
Snapshots are fine.
Not recorded.
But not recorded. All right. So without further ado, we'll start to my right. Closing remarks will go from the left over. We have a timekeeper here, 3 minutes, and our timekeeper is going to give you a 15-second warning and then a stop. Go ahead, Congressman Flake.
That's like a quick yellow light. Okay, if I stand up?
You speak wherever you'd like.
Thank you. Thank you. Is it on? Can you hear me? All right.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for having us here. This is my second time here, and I love it. And it's so good to see Jan here. Jan has done so much for the party and for the conservative cause.
Hold it a little closer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, there we go. Oh, not that close.
Not that close.
Kind of hold it like
All right. There. Not had a music career, so I'm not sure. But to have Jan here, who's done so much for the party and for the country and the conservative cause, thank you for being here. Karen and Sheriff Masher, I'm so glad to have your support. So glad that all of you are here and for making this facility available as well. Let me just say, in Washington this week, we had one very good thing happen, and that was the House voted to repeal Obamacare. Now, that was a very good development. The poor development is that this bill will now die in the Senate. And that brings up the importance of this race. We have to have a Republican majority in the Senate. We have to ensure that Senator Kyle is replaced by a Republican. And then if we can just pick up 4 more Republican seats around the country, we'll take control of the Senate. You know, the Senate hasn't passed a budget now in how long? Does anybody know? 3 years. Over 3 years, more than 1,000 days or 1,100 days. Somebody mentioned the other day, the last time the Senate passed a budget, the Apple iPad had not been invented yet. So that's true. We're now on the 3rd generation iPad and still no Senate budget. When the Senate doesn't pass a budget, it's hard to discipline your spending, as you can see with all the spending that's going on, but also it allows the agencies to run amok and regulate however they want. Because when the House and Senate don't go through regular order, you just can't regulate and hem in and set parameters for the agencies. That's why you see them doing what they're doing, from the EPA with environmental regulation, financial regulation, across the board. That's why we absolutely have to have a Senate. And one more thing, we've got to have a Republican in the White House. This has gone far too long now. If we want to get our spending under control, we've got to do that. You know, Bob Gates, the Secretary of Defense, until he retired just a year ago, he was asked just before he retired, what keeps you up at night? What do you worry about? What threat out there keeps you up at night? And everybody expected, I think, to say Iran and their nuclear capability or loose nukes in Pakistan. You know what he said? Not Obama, but that. He said the national debt. Here's the Secretary of Defense saying the national debt is the worst thing out there. And it is, because unless we get control of the national debt, there is no way that we can fund defense or any other spending. I see the time is going. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring about this race. I realize this is where the real work is done. Thank you.
And joining us, Will Cardin. Well, come on up. I know it's a big steak. Sometimes it's hard getting around with all the commitments. All right, Brian Hackbarth.
Thank you. We're on, but
What did you do?
I don't know, try this one.
how's that?
Good.
All right. Thank you for having me here, Jan. Thank you, and everybody else, Lost Montes family. Thank you for having us up here this afternoon. After coming back from Phoenix, this is beautiful today. Folks, I'm running for United States Senate for a number of reasons. One reason is to deal with illegal immigration. Legal immigration has not been dealt with in this country over 40 years. And I'm tired of using our Constitution and our borders as a doormat for all the illegals who are causing most of our financial problems in this country. In 2008, and my family is here, my wife is in the background, and in 2008, we did it by the rule of law. She became a United States citizen. And this is what I represent, the rule of law. We have a president and an administration that seems to just not care one iota about the rule of law in this country. And we need to start standing up and fighting for our constitutional rights. We are losing them day by day. We have a number of issues here in this race, and it's wide variety. But I can tell you this, my definition of an elected official is one who works for the American people. A politician is one who works for himself. It's time that we take this election seriously and time to elect a serious candidate to the United States Senate. Someone who's going to go out there and work for you. Not the special interests, not the political action committees, and not corporate America, but you. When is the last time that an elected official on a federal level has been concerned about what happened in your community? I can't think of one in this state. I hear them on the news, all it is rhetoric. It's time to put somebody in office that cares about your rights, your beliefs, and your goals in life. I've had my goals. It's my time now to give back to the community and give back to the state of Arizona and back to the United States. I care and love this country more than most people realize. I don't wear it on my sleeve. I don't wear the flag on my sleeve. I wear it right here in my heart. There's two books, the Holy Bible and the Constitution, that I follow and believe in. And it's time that we hold Congress and the White House administration, no matter what party they are, accountable and start following this rule of law. The other thing is that we're all forgetting in this election and in this country is the morals and values and of God. We do not bring God back in the fold of our political lives, we are going to be a nation gone under. And Ronald Reagan said that in 1984. We are a nation under God, and if we forget that, we're going to be a nation gone under. I look forward to your questions. Our table's in the back. I love to chat with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Next opening remarks, Diane Claire Van Steenwyk. Here we go.
I have two more names besides that.
We'll use that one.
Good afternoon. I'm a Christian constitutional conservative Republican. I was on a show this morning and I was asked, because on my website and on things I have, it says, I will not compromise with either party. The gentleman asked me how I expected to get anything done if I wouldn't. He left out part of the statement. I will not compromise the Constitution with either party. We now have representatives who've done just that. We have at least 5 departments that are unconstitutional that I can think of off the top of my head. One of them is, let me see, the Department of Education, which costs us $77 billion a year. Now, if you look at that, it doesn't sound like a lot of money until you multiply it out. But do you realize that the other 2 agencies that cost us even more than that are the EPA and OSHA? Yeah, they cost more money than that with all the rules and regulations. They pass regulations which they turn into laws. We have a Congress who funds these agencies on a regular basis. And these agencies are unconstitutional, and yet we have representatives who've sworn to protect and defend the very Constitution this country was founded under. We as Americans better get with it really quick. We don't have a lot of time left. If we don't start abiding and require elected officials in our government to abide by the Constitution, we're not going to have a country. We're almost there now. That's the problem. That's what people don't seem to understand. If we're supposed to be a constitutional republic, we have to start acting like one and stop electing people that don't honor that. And we've got a whole bunch of them in D.C. now and in state capitals all over this country. I retired back in October. I hit 65. I retired at 55 on our own income. But after being asked to do this, I started looking at it, and not to insult anybody, I looked at the people that were running, and I didn't see the observance to that Constitution I believe it deserves. I've heard people talk about illegal immigration and how we can lock the border down, but we can't get rid of the illegals because it costs too much money. They're using government numbers to tell us how much it costs. You and I both know you can take a round-trip ticket to Mexico for less than $12,000. It's not even $1,000 to do it, so we can get rid of the people and allow them to self-deport. I don't know how many of you remember Dwight Eisenhower doing that back in the 50s, but he solved our problems. The one mistake I believe Ronald Reagan made was giving amnesty in '86, because he set the stage for this nonsense now. We can't just close the border down. We also have to remove the problem. Over 5% of all employment in this country are illegals. They not only bring the salary costs down, they don't pay taxes for the most part. Those people are costing us over $150 billion a year federally, and probably close to another $50 billion on statewide. You need to make up your minds what you really want. A constitutional Republican American, or you want people that are going to just say, I'm going to cut a little here and there. If we don't fix this nation, we're not going to have one to pass on to the next 5 or 6 generations. God bless you and thank you.
Will Card, just as a reminder, for those who may have come in late, we are not allowing videotaping by any of the campaigns. That's a House rule. We're sticking to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you all for having us here today. It's a pleasure to be with you. Normally politicians think it's your honor to be with them. I've been in your shoes too many years to know it's the other way around, so thank you for taking time out of your precious day. My name is Will Carden. I'm a 5th generation Arizonan. I grew up here. I attended Stanford University, played football there, came back home, and have run a family business. Been president, CEO, debt-free family business for the last 12 years. And I'm running for the U.S. Senate, for this Senate seat, because I am sick and tired of career politicians. I've had it with people who go to Washington, D.C., say one thing and then do another. And I don't believe now is the time we can play games anymore with that. We need to send, and I believe we need to send, business people, people who have balanced budgets, people who have actually made payrolls, people who have hired people, people who understand what it's like in the real business world, not people who don't understand what it's like and have never created a job or never had a job in the private sector. The second thing I believe we need are outsiders. We need people who are not funded by Washington, D.C., who are not captive to Washington, D.C. special interest groups, or rely on the old guard. We need people who go to Washington, D.C., who can make the changes necessary and don't need to ask permission to make certain votes. The third thing I think we need in the U.S. Senate right now are consistent, reliable conservatives. We no longer can afford to have people who go fight for one thing for years and years and years on end, and then change their views depending on the office they're running for, or depending on what position they'd like to have in the government. We need people who go back to Washington, D.C., who will stick with the Arizona values they come from. I imagine a Senate, in my studies of U.S. Senate, out of 100 U.S. senators, only 15 have been in business before. Only 2 in the last 10 years. If jobs and the economy are the biggest issue we face, and as I've traveled tens of thousands of miles around this state, I believe they are, we need to send people with relevant experience regarding jobs and the economy, not people who've never had a job in the private sector again. I believe right now we need also Arizona senators, people who are focused on Arizona issues, people who understand the difference between investment and frivolous spending, people who understand how to get rid of waste, who haven't just said no, 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 but actually present solutions. We have a lot in both parties. A lot of people who go back to Washington, D.C. and say, well, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, and that's wrong. But they never present an answer. And as a result, we are $16 trillion in debt. Our border is broken. We have illegal immigration, drug wars going on, and people are really hurting. That's not what we need right now. We need solutions. We need statesmen, not politicians. Thank you.